Look, colorectal cancer is the third most diagnosed cancer in the United States. It will take more lives than breast cancer and get this, and prostate cancer.
I don't understand.
The good news is it's preventable.
Absolutely. So today, listen up. A guide to colorectal cancer, early prevention, and how a new technology is helping physicians detect the undetectable polyps. We'll start with gastroenterologist Dr. Douglas K. Take a look.
Colorectal cancer starts off as a growth that's on the inner lining of the colon that we call a polyp. And if that polyp gets big enough, it can turn into cancer, which means that it starts to grow into the wall. So if we can get in there and find the polyp and remove it before it turns into cancer, we can actually prevent the cancer from developing. So when we talk about symptoms in colon cancer, it's important to realize that the polyps that may eventually turn into cancer, they don't cause symptoms. Extremely rare for them to cause symptoms. Even early colon cancer may not cause symptoms. By the time symptoms have developed, a lot of times it's already spread, and it may in fact be too late. And this is the reason why we want to identify polyps and early cancers before they cause symptoms. Symptoms that are associated with colon cancer, the most important one is rectal bleeding, if you're seeing blood in the toilet bowl. But there can also be things like a change in your bowel habit or a change in the shape of the stool, the development of abdominal pain or weight loss. Unfortunately, again, many of those symptoms, especially the ones that don't involve bleeding, are often symptoms of later stages of colon cancer. So the most important risk factor for colorectal cancer is just age. As we get older, the risk gets greater. And currently, we think that beginning at age 45, everybody should get checked for colon cancer, even if they don't have any additional risk factors and even if they don't have any symptoms. But what are some things that add on to age as risk factors? A family history of colon cancer, especially in what we call a first-degree relative, a parent or a sibling, or if there are multiple second-degree relatives, grandparents, aunts, uncles, that also might be important. Then there are some lifestyle measures. They include not getting enough exercise, being overweight, cigarette smoking, alcohol to some extent, and then certain diseases. Probably the most important one is diabetes. When we talk about screening and trying to figure out how you're going to get it done, the biggest problem that we have in the U.S., and the reason we still have more than 50,000 people dying from colorectal cancer every year, is that about a third of the population that should be getting screened hasn't gotten any screening test done. The one that people hear the most about, and is still probably the most widely used screening test in the U.S., is colonoscopy. And colonoscopy is both the most effective, and because it's very good at finding polyps, it's the only one that's recommended at 10-year intervals. Colonoscopy is kind of the final common pathway of all routes towards screening, diagnosis of polyps, diagnosis of cancer, prevention of colon cancer. It ultimately all goes through colonoscopy.
What great information,
Wow.
Montel.
Crazy.
We're going to hear from Dr. Rex a little bit later, but first, we're joined by Brooks Bell, who was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer at the age of 38. And coming to us remotely from D.C. is Michael Sapienza, CEO of the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. I want to welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for being here.
Brooks, let's start with you. I know that you're really passionate about cancer awareness, and you were recently elected to the board of directors for the Colorectal Cancer Alliance last year. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, almost 3 years to the date, I was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 3 at age 38. Wow. And then went on to do 6 months of chemo and surgeries. And then, thankfully, I was declared cancer-free.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Congrats.
I did a lot of research on colon cancer, and I learned quite a bit. But most importantly, it is preventable. What prevents it is a colonoscopy. And now you can get them at age 45.
I got my colonoscopy, and I didn't want to go and with COVID, but I went, and they found 2 polyps in me. But you know, you never know what could have happened if I had not done it. Michael, let me bring you in. The goals I was reading here of the CCA are to screen, care, and cure. So let's talk about screening, since it is the #1 way to reduce the risk of this cancer, right?
colon cancer is what we say the preventable cancer. My mom fortunately died on Mother's Day in 2009 at the age of 59, was diagnosed at 56, and she had never received her screening. She'd be alive today. She had it. You know, the preventative task force actually just lowered the screening age from 50 to 45. So we're really excited about that, you know, but unfortunately, we're still seeing this huge disparity in African Americans. They have a 20% higher incidence rate and 40% higher mortality rate.
Well, that means that an additional 20 million people are now eligible for screening. So what is the Alliance doing to get the message out?
We've started this campaign called 45 is the new 50. You know, we are talking to insurance companies all across the country because they have until 2023 to actually cover it. So only about 50% of insurers are now covering at 45. So we have to do our jobs to advocate for people starting to get screened at 45.
I want to go back to Dr. Rex to learn more about the artificial intelligence device GI Genius. Listen.
When you're actually doing a colonoscopy and you're looking for polyps, one of the things that we have to be tuned into and to understand is that polyps come in all shapes and sizes, and some of them have a very subtle appearance, and they can actually appear on the TV screen and we might overlook them. So GI Genius is an artificial intelligence program, a software program that has been trained by looking at thousands of pictures and videos of polyps to recognize them. And it's like your assistant for finding polyps during colonoscopy. So when a polyp appears on the screen, we hear an audible ping, and the device puts a green square or rectangle around the polyp and alerts us to that specific site to inspect it, interrogate it, determine if it's a polyp, and remove it. So it's like we have this constant helper for polyp detection. GI Genius helps the doctor find polyps, and therefore it's helpful to patients. The more polyps the doctor finds, the lower the risk that you're going to develop cancer before your next colonoscopy. I really like the GI Genius because the whole purpose of this examination is to prevent my patient from getting colon cancer. And so the more help I get in finding polyps, and I've had plenty of help, and I have a very high detection level to begin with, but there are times when it finds polyps that I would not otherwise see, and that's fabulous for my patient.
You learned a lot as a cancer survivor. So what do you say to our viewers?
The absolutely most important thing that viewers take away from this is that this is something they can prevent on their own. They can do something about it. If I had waited another 6 months, my survival odds would have dropped 10 points, and it would have been a lot harder journey.
Michael, I'm going to turn to you quickly. Any final thoughts?
I just want to thank Medtronic and the innovation around GI Genius. It definitely will help save lives, so thank you very much.
Thank you both for helping to spread and make awareness and get awareness out there of the importance of colorectal cancer screening, really. Thank you.
Michael, thank you and good luck to you. Appreciate your time, and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And if you want information on any of this, GI Genius, you can visit medtronic.com, or for colorectal cancer support and resources, and there are so many, visit ccalliance.org, or just check out our website. Super easy, thebalancingact.com.